using the old bearing, tapping along the outside here. The inside's going to follow. If you hit on the inside, you're going to be stressing, you're going to be pushing this inside one in, and this isn't going to be really wanting to go anywhere, and you might destroy the bearing. So hit along the outside, and I'm not hitting very hard, just tapping it in, it's going. If you want to put your new bearing in the freezer for a couple hours, that might help, but it will probably heat up pretty quick as it sits in the crankshaft. Just take your time, and the outside should be flush with the, I think they call this a register, this outer ring here that the flywheel sits on. I'm just going to use this as a straight edge. I'm right in the middle of working on the clutch, and we're going to be installing a new slave cylinder. We're going to upgrade it with this billet support. Now here's the throwout bearing. If you take the bearing off, you can see this plastic support right there. This is going to replace that. Now the problem with the plastic one, not so much that it's weak, but well, it is weak in a way. People have had problems with these melting under extreme heat. There's been problems of the clutch pedal going to the floor, and it's been attributed to this piece failing. So this is supposed to take care of that problem. This ring, this is off the old one, it's actually pressed into this tube, and you want to very carefully push down on this and take your screwdriver and very carefully force this out. It's just under tension. You want to remove the old one, pop the new one in, and then take this ring and reset it. And make sure it's flat all the way around, which it is. And you can replace your throwout bearing. So there's a couple measurements we have to make to verify that the clutch is going to work properly. So what I did was took out the spring from the slave cylinder. This is actually the old one. If you're changing to a different kind of slave cylinder, you're going to have to figure out how you can push the throwout bearing all the way down to do this measurement. So I just took the old spring out so it'd be easy to do. The exact same part number that I'm putting in, just a new one. So I'm taking a straight edge here, and I'm going to go across the back of the housing, so flush with the bell housing, and I'm going to measure from the pilot bearing to that straight edge right there. So that thing is all the way back there like that. Four inches, 818 thousandths, 4.818. Now there's another measurement we got to do. Before we do that measurement, we actually have to get everything up onto the engine because we're going to be measuring the distance, the engine block to these springs here. And what that's going to tell us is the spacing for the throwout bearing. So for the LSA, I bought these ARP flywheel bolts, part number 2342801, 6.2 liter LT1 flywheel bolt kit, and there are 8 of them. And I did check, they are the same length as the ones that came out. Once again, I'm loosening everything in a star pattern. You want to evenly bring up this plate. You don't just want to bring one out. So in the previous video, we have shims under here. So we set the height from the bottom of this to that friction. So we need to be careful that we get those shims in the same spot. However you want to do it, to make sure that your shims stay with the stud. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the washer and the shims off, and I'm going to number them, and then I'm going to number the studs. So I assume you can see the little ding I put. One there, there's 2 on that one, and there's 3 on that one. That's how I'm going to number the studs. And then I'm going to take off the washer with the shim and set it aside with a number next to it, and that way I can hang the flywheel and get it all back together the same way with the proper shimming. So we're going to look at the bottom side of this. Oh, it's much lighter now. Now we're going to clean this up and make sure that the crank is clean, and then we can at least get some bolts started to hold this in place. Now's a really good time to take a friction disc and to make sure it fits the shaft of your transmission. If for some reason you got the wrong clutch, and I don't know, it was for a Ford or something with a different number of splines maybe, you want to find that out later. You want to find that out now. So should be able to move on there pretty easily. This one does. I'm going to go ahead and check the other one just for fun. And here's the second one. And it goes on too. So we know there shouldn't be a problem mating the transmission up to the clutch now. You can tell these flywheel bolts because the head's so thin. If you use the regular bolt heads, it won't work. They'll run into the it may run into problems if you do that. Anyway, these are given instructions here. Don't use washers with them. And lubricate the threads with Loctite 242, and lubricate underneath the head with the ARP fastener assembly lube right there. Then you torque them to 85 foot-pounds. You can see on the back of the flywheel, it's kind of a tan colored stuff around the holes. That's probably maybe the thread locker that they had, or I'm not sure what it is, but I can feel it with my finger. It needs to come off. So we're going to run a razor blade over that, get it down nice and smooth, take a brass brush to it, a little mini brass brush, and then blow away all the dust and stuff and blow out all the holes. And then we'll have a nice surface to put the flywheel on. We don't want the flywheel sitting crooked, or not so much as crooked, but if it's sitting on top of that junk there, if that junk were to eventually come out, then you may have a loose bolt. So got to clean it all off. So I got it a lot cleaner. Most of it's off. I would say there's a little bit right there I missed. I'm going to have to, a couple spots there on the right. But as I was blowing the holes out, I blew out a little bit of oil. So that does go through to the crankshaft on the other side of the crankshaft. Now there is a backer there, and I'm not quite sure how that's all relating. But I'm not going to spray brake cleaner down the threads to clean them, because I don't want the brake cleaner attacking the seal. I also don't want brake cleaner in my oil, but I'm more concerned about the seal there, keeping the integrity that dry, not getting anything on it at all, and of course being careful with the razor blade and wire brush. But all around that register, and then the flat surface here, and double check it, make sure it's nice and flat and clean. Okay, I don't specifically have a thread chaser, so I'm taking one of the flywheel bolts and just running it in and out of the crank holes here. A couple of them were a little tight. They would, you know, the flywheel bolt will go in pretty easy. Like this one, that one's getting tight. So there's probably some leftover junk. Yeah, that one's probably the tightest. There it goes. So I'm going to take that all the way down and bottom it out. Yep, there's about a 1/4 inch gap between there, so I got more than that on the flywheel, so we'll be okay. These will fit without bottoming the hole. So see, now the bolt goes in nice and easy. So we want that because we're going to be torquing it, and we don't want a false torque reading because the threads are all boogered up. So I've gone all the way around and they're all nice and loose now, and that's what you want. So I got to go to the store and get some Loctite 242. I don't have any. And will Permatex Blue work? Probably, but they're calling out for Loctite, so I'm gonna go buy it. Even though I cleaned all the way around that hub there, I think what I might do is I'm going to put all the bolts in and snug it, and then take the bolts out and make sure that the flywheel doesn't rock around like that. I'm not putting hardly any on these. I might be putting 15 pounds on them. All I'm doing is seating the flywheel, making it nice and flat, and then I'm gonna go ahead and take those bolts out. And we have the new slave cylinder, and this is a TIC Performance remote bleeder, and that's the part number, TPS BL5G. And so this is the end that would go under the hood. This is the end that attaches in here. Looks like it has maybe an SAE fitting. I don't think it's JIC. It looks like a 45. Might be JIC. Anyway, I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to take out this bleeder here. That's all that is. Actually, that's just a dummy. I don't know how they expect you to do anything with that. There's absolutely no hole going through it. Well, maybe they know something I don't. So that's going to screw in there. We're going to set that with the wrench, and then we can screw this on, and then mount this inside the transmission, provided we have the proper spacing after we take that second measurement. One thing about metal to metal seal, you don't need to crank it super tight. Good and snug is all you need. If you do any more, you can actually deform the inside of the seat.